What's up, guys? Aaron J. Daigle here to show you these 3 things that will happen to you whenever you make excuses. To understand the 3, we need to start with what is known as the law of cause and effect. Another way of saying this is that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. You smash the like button, other people find the video. You subscribe to the channel, you become a part of the community. You turn on the notifications bell, and you stay updated with all the new uploads. It's simply the law of cause and effect. Now, our excuses are our way of consoling ourselves whenever our causes create effects that we don't like. So when our actions result in equal and opposite unpleasant reactions, we need someone to blame. And look, we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. That's one of the benefits of being married, is that we don't have to take responsibility for our actions anymore. Everything is always our spouse's fault. But here's the deal. I want to help you quit making excuses. Not for the sake of doing so, not because we shouldn't be making excuses. That's all obvious. I want to help you see that making excuses makes you helpless. It literally puts you in a category of people worth feeling sorry for. Once you see the 3 things that happen to people when we make excuses, you'll understand what I mean by feeling sorry for them. And chances are, after you finish watching this video, you will never make another excuse again. So let's start with the story in the Bible of where the idea of these 3 things that happen to us when we make excuses comes from. But before we get into that, let's talk about the sponsor for today's video, which is Aaron J. Daigle and all of his books that are available on Amazon. He has I Failed God, Now What?, which takes us through mistakes and failures and how to bounce back and get back on our feet after messing up. There's also Convenient or Committed, which shows us how to find our purpose in life and make our lives count. And then there's From a Great Mess to Greatness, which is the life story of how God can take a child who goes through abuse and trauma, who gets molested and sees his own mom get raped in front of him, but then turns around, gives his life to Christ, gets off of drugs and alcohol, and finds hope in a broken world and gives his life over to God and to ministry. And I'm just kidding. I didn't sponsor my own video, Avi. That'd be a little weird. But big time YouTubers always have the "this video is sponsored by" commercial in the middle of their videos, and I've been wanting to do one. So after recording this, I'll drop the link in the description for you to get the books, and then I'll add a sponsored commercial inside of your YouTube videos off of my bucket list. So let's start from 2 stories about 2 twins named Esau and Jacob. Esau came out of the womb first, and then Jacob. So since Esau was the firstborn son, he was entitled to the rights of the firstborn child and the blessing of the firstborn child. Jacob, however, ended up getting the firstborn rights and the blessing. Here's how he did it. To get the firstborn rights, one day Esau was out hunting and Jacob was making some soup. When Esau came back from hunting, he was hungry and he says, "Yo, bro, give me some of that soup. I'm starving." And Jacob says, "I tell you what, I'll whip you up a bowl real quick. All you got to do is trade me your firstborn rights in order to get it." Esau then says, "Well, I'm so hungry, I'm about to die of starvation. What good is it to have these firstborn rights?" So he gives over the rights as the firstborn son in order to get the bowl of food from Jacob. Now, on another occasion, Jacob ends up getting the blessing also. Their dad, Isaac, is getting old. He's about to die and wants to bless his 2 children. So he tells Esau to go out and hunt his favorite food and bring it back to him so he can eat his favorite meal and then bless him with the blessing of the firstborn son. But their mom, Rebecca, hears Isaac say this to Esau, and since Rebecca likes Jacob more than Esau, she decides to play a little trick. She tells Jacob to go get his dad's favorite food, then she prepares the meal and then tells Jacob to put on some of Esau's clothes. Since the dad, Isaac, was blind at this time, he had to rely on touch and smell to know who was who. So Rebecca sends Jacob in wearing Esau's clothes with the food she prepared, and Jacob gives it to Isaac and tells his dad, "Here is the food you sent me to go get for you." Isaac says, "Who are you?" And he says, "I am Esau, your firstborn son." It took a little convincing, but eventually Isaac believed that it was in fact Esau instead of Jacob, and he blessed Jacob with Esau's blessing. So the record tells us that Esau gave Jacob his firstborn rights, but then it tells us that Jacob stole the blessing from Esau. However, watch what Esau said about these 2 events from Genesis chapter 27, verse 36. "No wonder his name is Jacob, for now he has cheated me twice. First he took my rights as the firstborn, and now he has stolen my blessing. Oh, haven't you saved even one blessing for me?" Did you catch that? He says Jacob stole his blessing. That's true. But he also says he took my rights as the firstborn. Not true. Jacob did not take Esau's rights. Esau gave Jacob his rights because he wanted the immediate gratification of eating the soup, and now that he's dealing with the consequences of his own decision, he wants somebody to blame for it. And that's what you and I do. We make decisions, but then don't like the consequences. So we point the finger at a person or at a group of people and accuse them of putting us into the situation that we have put ourselves into. And here's the three things that happen to us when we do this. Number one, we give up our ability to change the situation. If it's someone else's fault, they're responsible. They control it, and you can't change what someone else controls. So by blaming someone else, I am forfeiting my ability to take ownership of the situation and make it into something different. I essentially accept whatever consequences are there and assume that they have to be there, that there is nothing I could possibly do to change this. People who make excuses disempower themselves. They take away their own ability to make the situation better. Now, the second thing that happens whenever you make excuses is you give up the ability to change other situations. Since you feel stuck because of someone else, like we talked about just now, then you develop the mindset that you can't move forward. So feeling less empowered in this one situation then carries over into other areas of life. So if the story you tell yourself is, I can't go to college because the system won't let me, then what happens when you skip college and start your own business instead? And as you're trying to get it off the ground, what is it that you believe? The system won't let me. The excuses you made for one area of your life carry over and affect other areas of your life. That's why Benjamin Franklin said, he that is good for making excuses is seldom good for anything else. Now, the third thing that happens when making excuses is you never identify the real reason why you're stuck. So for the sake of argument, let's just assume for 1 minute that it's not your spouse's fault. It's not your parents' fault. It's not an entire race of people's fault. It's not an entire political party's fault. Just assume with me for 60 seconds that you yourself are actually the problem, that it is your mindset that is holding you back. But you never see it because you're focused on everyone else, then you can never fix it. So you can go through the rest of your life angry at millions of people, blaming everybody else, yet never looking into the mirror and asking yourself, am I the problem? And unless you take the microscope off of whoever it is you've been blaming and focus it on yourself, assuming there's a slight 1 in 100th possibilities that you are actually the problem, then you'll constantly hold yourself down and blame everyone else in the world for it. So that is what happens to you when you make excuses. You lose your ability to change your situation, you lose your ability to change other situations, and you never realize the real reason why you're stuck in the first place.